Hello learners, in this video, an essay of dramatic poesy, John Dryden, which is the fourth lecture on the same topic in a series. In the previous video, we have seen the remaining two characters and the very important, the central discussion that was there in the essay, because the purpose of the essay was to vindicate the English dramatists, and it was done very well by Neander. Now we are coming to the close of the essay, the end of the debate, because now the four characters are about to reach their destination. Because in the beginning, you must remember that they were um, going on a barge, sailing on a barge on River Thames, and by the end of this essay, they reach their destination from where they had to part for their different places. So this is the last section, and one and two important things are discussed here, so I would like to explain that. In the previous lecture, we had ended at a comparison between Ben Jonson and Shakespeare, and here I am beginning the lecture with the examine of The Silent Women. This was the work written by Ben Jonson, and Ben Jonson is no doubt regarded as the most learned and judicious writer which any theatre ever had. So his this play, he mainly wrote comedies, and his this play is one of the classic example of that regular play which Neander also appreciated in his argument. So let us just see what is there in this play which Neander has talked about, that is Dryden has talked about. So The Silent Woman, if you see, the very standard thing that it does is to finish that this time of that play. The time that is shown, that is represented on the stage, is not more than a day, a natural day. So it does not exceed the natural compass of a single day, and it is presented on stage in 3.5 hours of time. So the play is long, and in that 3.5 hour he could only present a particular day, so he did not miss major things. He because I'll come to that also now. Second thing is setting. The setting is London. This has to be known in that play. And in the first act, in that is for 2 hours, the first act goes for 2 hours, and till there it just you get to see the whole build up, the introduction of the character, how the exposition takes place, and the continuity of scene is very well, very integrately, the integrity of the play is very well, because the scenes come after one after the other, and this continuity is not observed by any other play. This kind of continuity is not observed in any other play of English period. There is such a beauty in that continuity. This is what is explained by Neander while he is judging the work. Now the action of the play is entirely single. That means it follows the unity of action. Unity of action is very important, that all the actions should contribute to a single line of story, right? So the scenes which are coming one after the other, they are just following or contributing to the single story. And in this play, the main aim is to settle the morose state on Dauphine. There is one uncle and one nephew. They are like, the nephew is expecting the property, but all of a sudden the uncle comes out with a marriage. So when you have a wife, and definitely she also has a right on the property, so all that story is the main intrigue of the story is this, the main storyline of the story is this. So this kind of intrigue, he says, is of its greatest and most noble of any pure unmixed comedy in any language. Such comedy and such intrigue that has been chosen or used and presented, it is so unmixed comedy. There is no dent of any tragic element into the story. There is only a kind of intrigue built, a suspense built, but there is no tragedy as such to call it tragicomedy. So there is no mixture into it. So it's a pure comedy, right? And in any language, if you see, it is the best comedy that is written from the point of view of intrigue, right? Now he uses various characters into it and different kind of humors, and all these things, characters and humors, they serve their purpose. They all are used to provide the delight, right, the delight to the audience, and finally contributing to the main play. That means the unity of action is maintained even after various characters and elements. So Ben Jonson is quite regular in observing all the ancient rules, and he is even regular in providing that teaching as well as delight. He's keeping in mind and he's doing that, but his flaw is that he's too laborious to make it tight. But in this play, Neander has explained, has given a judgment on the play, that what all qualities he is seeing in this work. To talk about characters, there is a particular character, Falstaff. He expresses his views separately on him. He described him with bundle of frailties. This Falstaff character has lot of problems with him, but all these problems, what they do, they generate humor. So all this humor is very unexpected and contrast, because he has problems in his character, but ultimately he provides delight to the audience. So this is beautifully used. Even the frailties are used to provide delight to the audience. Now he's in this play, if you talk about, he praises the strategy of the plot of this play. Who praises? Neander praises the strategy. He says that there are many devices that are used by Ben Jonson to make this play perfect, right? He does that, I have already told, that what is the scene. The scene is, the action is of a single day. The story is of a single day, where Dauphin has come to for property. He has come for the settlement of the property with his uncle. So the whole story goes around this thing. So the play is uh, you may say contrived in a very one after the other way, so that the development can be seen in a progressive way. The first scene would be, the second scene would be better than the first, then the third scene would be better than the second. This way the play grows. So this systematic development of the play, the systematic progress of the play adds to the beauty, the the thrill, or the kind of engrossment that is desired from the audience. It is just done through all the devices, or through all the devices which are in their fine limits. He has done nothing in exaggerated form. Likely it happens that for comedy they go to any extent and make it very low, but he doesn't do that. Johnson doesn't do that. He follows all the limits. He keeps it to a level, and even then the intrigue grows, the complexity grows, the humor grows, the delight grows. So everything, the everything is very well in a perfect manner rendered by Johnson in Silent Women. So Silent Women is, he says, is very beautifully done, is nicely done by Ben Jonson. This was the analysis of the Silent Women by Neander, that is John Dryden, in his argument. After his argument, now when he was defending the English, he had given the appreciation, or some faults also he has found in Ben Jonson, but at the end he found the Silent Women as a classic work. He found it following all the rules and still providing, keeping in mind the quality of English plays, that is to provide delight as well as teaching. So I would like, he concludes his this section, that if you talk about all the present poets, their English present poets, they have surpassed all the ancient and even the moderns of any country. According to Neander, English dramatists are the best, because they have written the best work they have made it to the audience. It is the play is not just an imitation of a statue, it has to be done of a nature, and that is the purpose is done for the audience. Why play is written? So that the audience can watch it and enjoy it. That is what is happening in English plays, and English audiences, the audience is enjoying this kind of writing very much. Now I would like to give a significance why this examine later on. Critics, when they read this work, Essay on Dramatic Poesy, they they found something in it. They found some value to it, this examine. In the words of George Watson, I'm just quoting and quoting, then I'll explain. The chief triumph of the examine lies in its attempt at comparative criticism. It is a kind, it is one of the first kind where comparative criticism is being done in its balancing of the qualities of the English drama against those of the French. So through this comparative criticism, what they are doing, trying to do, they are trying to find out the merits of English drama, which can balance the quality that have been counted by Lycidius to prove that French drama is better. So, but this comparative criticism which he has done, that he has shown that all the unities which are important, which the ancients haven't talked about, mainly the unity of place, but in this play he even follows the unity of place too. Unity of action and time is kept in mind to the highest level. All the rules are followed, and how the intrigues are presented. I missed a point earlier that Ben Jonson has used a strategy of introducing the character with an explanation before. Whenever a character comes to the stage, what he would do, he would give an elaborate introduction to the character, so that as he comes and from which dialogue he begins, the audience knows about the character in hand, so that it is easy to connect to him in the story. The time is not wasted to give him his place in the story. It happens, right? Whenever we watch a movie, if a new character comes, it takes some time to judge his action if we do not have any background to him. But Ben Jonson has even used this strategy, that he in hand gives the explanation or the introduction of the character just before he's been introduced on the stage. So Ben Jonson has tried all his classical rules in his work, and still made it an English play by adding different element and make it lively for the audience. That is very important. It is undeniably the first example of such criticism in English, and among the very earliest in any modern language. In modern languages, earlier Greek and Latin, those were the language. So they are ancient language. Now, what are the more, English had taken its time to develop and all, and French is right now going on. So all Spanish is going on, Norwegian is going. So all these languages are then modern language. So he says in any modern language, if you see such comparative criticism, such descriptive criticism also, because he described all the strategies, all the characters, all the techniques used in the play. So this is descriptive criticism also. So this kind of criticism would be the first in itself. Now we are coming close to the question that why Dryden is being called the father of criticism. So this is important part. You can quote this later in your answer. So this with this Neander feels that he has justified the point that why English plays are better than all the ancients as well of the modern from any country of any language. So but this is not the end of the essay, because there is one single issue that has been taken towards the end. Now the issue was arguments on rhyme. If you remember the French, you would say that they like rhyme, they appreciate the beauty of rhyme, but they prefer writing in blank verse. Now why this is so, I am coming to that point also. I am coming to this, I'm going to close with that. Now this discussion takes place between Critus is Sir Robert Howard, you remember, who had taken the favor of ancients, right?
So ancients who write all the rules, but even he is not in the favor of rhyme. Excuse me. So what he does, he attacks this use of rhyme. According to Critus, he says that rhyme is not, allowable in serious plays. Even in comedy, it is not good. It's not suitable for tragedy and comedy. And but then he specifically come to tragedy, and he says that it is not allowable in serious plays because it is very unnatural. It is very unnatural to speak in rhyme, because nobody speaks in rhyme in real life. Even and mostly when you are in very high emotional state, there you do not use rhyme. I hope you all understand what rhyme is, right? In the same kind of ending, same kind of music ending, so which limits you to express your views. So whenever you are in some high sort of emotion, you would not be speaking in rhyme, because rhyme is a mechanical work. You have to think about it before speaking. Comedy, it is still can be done, but it is not allowable in serious plays. In his word, I am saying, quote unquote, these are the words of Critus that are being taken. First, then, I am of opinion that rhyme is unnatural in a play, because dialogue there is presented as the effect of sudden thought, right? For a play is the imitation of nature, and since no man without premeditation speaks in rhyme, neither ought he do it on stage. He says that it should not be spoken in rhyme, because no, when you are in emotional and you are talking to somebody, you generally not talk in rhyme. It is the art, or it is a playful thing for few people. Not, it's not the talent of everyone to speak in rhyme. And moreover, when you are in a high emotional state, and this should not be allowed in the on the stage. Now he says, uh, if you talk about the ancients, they are the rule setters, they are the ones who began dramas. He said that the ancients also did not prefer to write in rhyme, right? uh, they they use iambic meter. Iambic meter is similar to prose. And if you talk about the present time, this iambic meter has been replaced by blank verse, which is similar to prose. And this was actually said by Aristotle also. Critus gives this his point to support his attack on rhyme. He says that Aristotle also has he has also asked that the best to write tragedy in that kind of verse which is the least such of which is nearest prose, and this amongst the ancients was the iambic, and with us is blank verse. So ancients used iambic meter, which was close to prose, because Aristotle has also said that it is the language which is close to normal speaking, that is in prose, which is nearest to the prose. That kind of language has to be used, and in the present time blank verse would serve the purpose, so blank verse should be used. Even Shakespeare and all, they all wrote in blank verse, you should note this. But Neander, after Shakespeare and all, the time has gone. It is the English plays now of after Restoration mainly, yeah, or that period, after from Ben Jonson onwards. So these people are trying their hands in rhyme. So he is saying that rhyme is not good for writing that, because nobody speaks in rhyme. It's very unnatural. Even Aristotle has asked to write in a language, in a meter which is closer to prose, no natural prose. So it is the blank verse in the present time. He says that if you say that rhyme helps in giving some beauty to, add some beauty to the play, so it is not so. Actually, it makes it unnatural. If you say that rhyme should be used for ornamentation, it is wrong. It would not do that beautifying thing. It would just make it unnatural. It's just like doing extra makeup. If you do natural makeup, it is fine, that looks good. But if you do extra makeup, then everybody can find it is not natural and it looks ugly then. So it's the same thing here, what he is proposing. Then he also, somebody would say that rhyme helps in checking the error in the writing of the poet. because when you are writing in rhyme, you are putting a lot of thought, the poet is putting a lot of thought while writing. That would help him to check his errors. But he says that it is not so. The luxuriant fancy of the poet does not require rhyme to check it. In fact, a good poet would anyway, even if he is writing in rhyme or blank verse, would check his faults. So this is not the role of the rhyme, it is the role of the poet who would look at his flaws and correct them. Then we come to Neander's defend, how he defends rhyme. So, what Neander says. Now, Neander was actually in the favor of rhyme. He says that good poet always writes in rhyme, as rhyme is more creative and artful than blank verse, as it is already saying that it is taking a lot of effort from the side of a poet, so it is going to be more creative, more artful than blank verse. Blank verse is easier to write, right? It is not requiring much hard work, labor, because you are writing into closer to prose. You are not intending to make it beautiful, more artful, so obviously it is better than blank verse. Then he says, right, if you say that it is unnatural, no, it is not unnatural, it is natural. If people do not speak in rhyme, then nobody even speak in blank verse, because blank verse also has a touch of verse, it would be a little poetic. So that means that nobody in common life, in general life, nobody speaks in verse. We talk in plain or blunt languages, right? But for the play, little bit upgradation has to be done, so they are writing in blank verse. But he's complaining that if you are saying that nobody speaks in rhyme, then nobody speaks in blank verse also. So he cites some example where the ancients have also used rhyme. He says heroic rhyme is close to nature and noblest kind of verse. Out of these rhymes also, he prefers heroic rhyme, heroic verse for writing the play. The novelty of rhyme is the reason for hostility towards it. He gives the reason why people are not okay with rhyme. He says that because it has a lot of effort into it and a lot of newness into it. So that thing is hard for people to accept. That's why they are scared to use rhyme. But one should give time. According to him, one should give time. It will take some time, but people would get into the habit of using rhyme or get acquainted with rhyme, and then the audience will also get easy with using or hearing rhyme on stage. He lastly supports his view by giving the fact that tragedy and epic are similar in most of the ways except narration. Epic is more of narration, tragedy is more of action, right? That was the difference we had studied while we had studied Aristotle. So he's there that when there are so many similarities, and epic is written in rhyme, so it can be done for tragedy too. The tragedy can be written in rhyme too, it will produce the same effect. So he cites the way one can introduce rhyme in the work. So this was the last question that would come regarding the essay of dramatic poesy, which will make to your question paper. So rhyme was important part into that. So that's why I thought of taking this, and I would like to close the essay by giving Atkins' view that why this essay is important, right? Why this essay became important in English criticism. In the words of Atkins only, I am explaining. Such then is the famous essay, which in its liveliness, its shrewd reasoning, and urbanity represent to foretaste of what was to be the best in Dryden's later critical works. This is among his earliest, critical work, and Atkins says that you get to see such liveliness, such reasoning, such urbanity. He has talked about all the present and the past and all the sites and different aspects, so he made it too lively, he made it too urbane, there refined in a way, if you say. So if so much is done in the earlier work, one can imagine that what are there in his next works too. In its pages, French influence may definitely be traced, particularly that of Corneille, whose free play of intellect in his discourses and examines found in Dryden a ready response. And this was to remain a distinguishing feature on his criticism right on to the end. He says that definitely nobody can escape the influence of the French of that time, because French were booming. If the king itself was patronizing, himself was patronizing French plays or French dramatists, so English or writers cannot escape that, and they were doing nice, so there is no doubt in accepting that. So he says that one can see the impression or the impact of Cornell. He has taken a lot of things from Cornell, studied and used in his own writing. So and it used in such a way that it becomes the distinguishing feature in his writing. It becomes a peculiar feature of his writing. As yet, his ideas were obviously in a fluid condition. He was sailing in a vast ocean without other help than the pole star of the ancients and the rules of the French stage. This criticism, which takes in the form of debate when they are sailing on a ship, or sorry, barge, a bigger boat, when they are sailing on that boat, they are the he says his thoughts are flowing like anything. He has taken help of ancients and the French, but they are just the markers, because the whole purpose is to defend the English place. So how he found way to defend English place? If suddenly he would have started to just defend English place, he would not have made it so right, made it so impactful. He began from the ancients, he then gave the chance to the modern, then he came to the French, and lastly he talked about the English plays, that how superior English plays have become, that all the other plays, by finding flaws and accepting the merits also, because they are the part of the development, they are the part of the journey of a drama, ancients, modern, French, and then English. So this part cannot be escaped, their role cannot be uh, discarded, they have to be accepted. But when he discussed his English plays, in the end he made it that the flow through which he was going while the whole discussion, he made it quite acceptable for all the audience, all the readers to accept, yes, and even the other opponents, that in French English plays are better than all the other plays. On the other hand, his test of literary value is an inborn sensibility, taste of literary value, not so very different from the nature of reason of the earlier Renaissance period. And it is to that particular test we owe the acute and masterly appreciation of Shakespeare and Johnson. That when Neander appreciated or brought out the qualities and the flaws of both Shakespeare, Beaumont Fletcher, Johnson, so seeing that, one can deduce that there is no doubt he has the natural vent for criticism. When he can do pass on judgment on such great people, who in today's time what we do, we see others work of criticism to understand the previous writers, but here Dryden has closely read the work of these writers, and he has proposed his own views. Because Shakespeare did not become that popular when it was his own time, as it was said that it was Beaumont and Fletcher's plays which were doing better than Shakespeare and Johnson's play. This was also said by Ben Jonson. So because it was for the popular taste of the audience were responding better to such plays. But with due course of time, Shakespeare became the most important you know English dramatist, and it to Dryden goes a lot of credit, because the point he has found out and the way he has appreciated work, even then he himself is among Dryden himself is among the earliest neoclassical writers, right? even though he was born in 17th century, he is considered to be of 18th century, because completely the 18th century was neoclassic. The earlier 18th century, the whole period was itself a neoclassical period. So it, and although he was a century ahead, but he is among the earlier ones who had begun the neoclassic. Before him comes the name of Ben Jonson. So he was so close to those writers. He did his own study and found, even though he was neoclassical, he cannot stop himself from appreciating Shakespeare, who had broken so many laws, who had experimented out of the way than the classical and rules of the antiquity. So he had this natural taste for criticism. So essay of dramatic poesy becomes very important in, it becomes a foundation of his own critical standards, and even for the time coming forth. So that is the importance of the essay of dramatic poesy. I had talked about in the words of Atkins has given his views. So that will be all about this essay, the essay of dramatic poesy. Now only one question is left, that is Dryden as the father of English criticism, which I'll be giving you soon. Thank you and have a great day ahead.